This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
Here's your report.
Oh, thanks, Jane. I wish I could hire someone just like you.
Try LinkedIn Hiring Pro. It's more than a job board. It's like the recruiter you always wished you had. Hiring Pro uses real-time insights to match your role to LinkedIn's unique network of professionals and delivers a short list of best fit candidates. You'll spend less time sorting applicants and more time talking to the right people.
Let's do it. You're irreplaceable, Jane, but another you would be great.
Hire right the first time. Post your job for free on LinkedIn today at linkedin.com/quality.
Does anyone else ever stop and think how absolutely, catastrophically fucked up all of this actually is? No, seriously, stay with me.
You're listening to Unbound, off script. No outlines, no safety nets, just Beth Curry talking about whatever the hell she wants, or whatever the hell you've asked her to uncover. It's unfiltered, it's unpredictable, and it's officially started. Pull up a chair and don't expect her to stop talking anytime soon. She's a total blabbermouth. Take it away, Beth.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unbound. This is an off-script episode. You are born. Congratulations. You didn't ask for this. Nobody consulted you, but here you are, a small, screaming bundle of potential. And before you can even pronounce the word mortgage, society has already got a laminated itinerary for your entire existence. It's true. Don't get mad. School at 4, maybe, exams at 16, career decisions at 17. That's right. We let you choose the next 50 years of your life at an age where your primary skill is microwaving things badly. And then college debt, and then a job, and then a bigger job, and then a mortgage, and then more work to pay for the mortgage. And then if you're lucky, if you're really, really lucky, a retirement you're too exhausted to enjoy, and a 401k that's worth roughly one vacation and a sunroom. And then you die. That's the plan. That's the plan, the whole ass thing. Nobody voted on it. Nobody signed anything. There was no meeting. And when you point this out, when you say, hold on, this seems insane, everyone looks at you like you have 16 heads, I guess, and pats you on the shoulder and says the 3 most sinister words in the English language. That's just life. Is it though? I want to pull on this thread today, okay? So buckle up, or don't, because honestly, you've earned a bit of recklessness. I'm going to start at the beginning because that's where they get you, okay? The very, very beginning. You're a kid, you're 4, maybe 5 years old. Your interests at this stage included dinosaurs, shouting, and eating things off the floor, okay? You are, in the purest sense, a free agent. And then one September morning, someone straps a backpack the size of your entire torso onto you and marches you into a building where you will spend the next 14 years of your life learning to sit down, be quiet, put your hand up if you want to speak, and ask permission to go to the bathroom. Ask permission to go to the bathroom. Listen to Season 3, Episode 1 for my opinions on this. Anyway, I want you to really sit with this because it never actually stops, right? The little ritual of raising your hand and waiting to be acknowledged, hoping, the person in charge says yes. That's not a school thing. It's training. It's the demo version of every PTO request you will ever submit. Hi, Karen. Hope you're well. Just wondering if I could possibly have 5 days off in August so I can remember what my children look like. No worries if not. No worries if not. We actually say that shit. Grown-ass adults begging politely for slices of their own lives back and then apologizing for the inconvenience of it all. Anyway, back to school. Now look, before anyone emails me or gets crazy with their thumbs, busy thumbs, messaging me. I'm not saying education is bad. Well, I have opinions on publicly funded education specifically, but that's a whole other episode, so I'm not going to get into it. Reading, great. Math, occasionally useful, maybe, mostly for splitting bills and lying to yourself about your finances. Learning about the world, genuinely great stuff, okay? But let's be honest about what school actually optimizes for. Okay, it's not curiosity. Curiosity is what gets you told to stop asking dumbass questions. I talk about that maybe in episode 2 of season 3. I don't recall. Anyway, it's not creativity. Creativity is what gets scheduled into a 40-minute slot on Thursday afternoons right after double physics when your soul has already left your body or something. What school optimizes for is compliance. Okay, don't get mad. Just listen to me because it's true and you know it's true, but you don't want to admit it because someone will call you a name or label you something. But it's true. It's compliance. Show up at the same time every day. Sit where you're told, do the task, whether or not it means a damn thing to you. Get graded, compare your grade to everyone else's grade, feel bad, try harder, repeat. This is what it is and you know it. And I know it and I know you know it. Sound familiar? It should, right? It's a job. It's an unpaid job with worse bathrooms and a bell. Oh, and the bell. Let's talk about the bell for a quick sec because there's a great little bit of psychology here. And you know, I cannot get through an episode without a little bit of psychology shit. You know, Pavlov, Russian scientist, rang a bell every time he fed his dogs. Eventually the dogs would drool just at the bell. No food required. Classical conditioning. Legendary experiment. Anyway, completely unrelated, we ring a bell to make children move between rooms, and we ring another one to let them eat, and then wonder why 20 years later a Slack notification sound makes their heart rate spike in a Target or a Walmart or something. We didn't learn from Pavlov, we franchised him. And here's the kicker, the part that genuinely breaks my brain and makes me angry. At 15, 16 years old, some adult in a slightly sad sweater vest, in my part of the world, they're called guidance counselors, sits you down and asks you the question, so, what do you want to do with your life? 16. 16. At 16, I was probably still eating glue. I don't know. I couldn't reliably fry an egg. I know I was sniffing magic markers. Anyway, I once cried because my high school football team lost a preseason game. And like, this is the person society decided should map out the next 5 decades. Okay. You haven't figured out who the hell you are yet. You haven't had time. You've been too busy learning the periodic table and how to survive gym class. But no, pick a lane, kid. Pick your classes, which decide your college apps, which decide your major, which decide your career, which decides your zip code and your pension, and statistically, probably who you marry. One decision made by someone whose frontal lobe won't finish downloading for like another 9 years, right? That's not me being cruel to teenagers. It's just plain old neuroscience. You know, that prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning and impulse control and weighing up consequences. It doesn't finish developing until around the age of 25. We won't let a 20-year-old rent a car because their brain is a known liability, but a 16-year-old choosing the trajectory of their entire existence? Yeah, no. That's fine. Off you go. Choose wisely, half-built brain. And we call this guidance. Then, and this is my favorite part, then comes the brainwashing's final boss, college. Or as I like to call it, paying $50,000 a year to be hungover in a slightly different state or province, whatever. Again, learning, great, woohoo! Some people need degrees. Doctors, please, doctors, get the degrees. I'm begging you. Nobody wants a self-taught surgeon who learned it off YouTube. Never mind. I was going to say something, but no. Somewhere along the line, we told an entire generation of kids that college wasn't a choice. It was the choice. It was the only respectable door. And so millions of 18-year-olds kind of took on the kind of debt that would make a small nation nervous, right? Just to study subjects half of them didn't give a shit about, to qualify for jobs that mostly don't even require the damn degree. And when they graduate, clutching a diploma and a debt letter that reads like a ransom note, the same society that told them to do this says, right, entry-level position, we need 3 years of experience. Experience. For an entry-level job. It's like asking a newborn for references or something. So now you've got the job. Congratulations, you've made it. You're officially a contributing member of society. Trademark. Here's what you've won. 40 to 50 years of the following on rotation. Alarms, commutes, meetings that could have been emails that could have been nothing, deadlines, performance reviews where someone 3 years younger than you asks where you see yourself in 5 years. Buddy at this rate in a bath with the door locked, crying softly into a Chipotle bag, okay? Relationships you're too tired to nurture. Hobbies you keep meaning to get back to. A gym membership you pay for religiously and attend spiritually. The Sunday scaries, which we've all just accepted as a normal part of life. An entire day of the week ruined, 1/7 of your remaining existence spent dreading the other 6/7. And we gave it a cute name, the Sunday Scaries, like it's a cartoon ghost and not low-grade existential dread with a bedtime. And the crown jewel, as I said earlier, asking permission to take a week off, filling in a form, so you're allowed to briefly stop, sit somewhere warm and remember what the sun looks like. 10 days a year if you're lucky, 10 out of 365. That's the deal. That's the exchange rate on your one wild and precious life. And you'd better not take them all at once. That raises eyebrows. That's not really the culture here. You've heard it. The culture here, for the record, is quiet suffering in a fantasy football league. Why do we stay? Quick psychology pit stop, because it's me. The sunk cost fallacy. The more you've already invested in something, years, money, dignity, the harder it becomes to walk away, even when walking away is obviously the right move. It's why people finish terrible films and stay in dead relationships and spend 15 years in a career they chose at 16 with, see earlier, an unfinished brain. But I've put so much in. Yes, and a casino would like to remind you that's exactly the sentence that keeps people at the table at 4 a.m. The past is spent, friend. The only real question is what the next hour costs you. But okay, fine. Maybe the grind would be worth it if the math worked, right? If you could just put your head down, do the years, and actually arrive somewhere. That was the promise, right? Work hard, and you'll get the house and the security and the exhale. But let's check in on that promise, shall we? The house costs more, not a bit more, comically more. Your grandparents bought their house for what you currently spend annually on cheese. Okay? Your parents bought theirs on one salary, and that salary belonged to a man whose main professional skill was being there. Meanwhile, you're saving for a deposit while paying rent that costs more than the mortgage itself that you're not even allowed to have. You're currently proving every single month that you can afford the mortgage by paying more than the mortgage to a bank that says you can't afford the mortgage. Kafka couldn't write that. He'd probably say it was too much. Food costs more. Energy costs more. Remember when checking the smart meter wasn't a horror film? Tax goes up. Carbon tax exists. And then the carbon tax on the carbon tax exists. And that carbon tax on the carbon tax on the carbon tax. I'm in Canada, so whatever. Inflation goes up. Your rent goes up because the landlord's costs went up. And the landlord's costs went up because, well, we never really do get a straight answer on that one, do we? I don't know. Everything goes up. Everything except the one number that matters. The amount of actual life you get back. Hours with your kids. Slow mornings. Time to think. Time to just, be a person rather than a productivity unit with a lanyard, right? You're chasing numbers and the numbers are chasing better numbers. And somewhere in a spreadsheet in the sky, none of it was ever about you. Like 10 years ago, the goalpost was the house. You get near the house. The goalpost is now the bigger house, the school district, the pension gap, the emergency fund, have you thought about a Roth IRA? No, Gary, I haven't thought about a Roth IRA. I'm trying to think about literally anything else at the barbecue. Speaking in my finest American. The finish line moves, right? I wouldn't say that that's a flaw in the system. I kind of suspect it's the whole ass design, right? A race with a finish line that moves is not a race. It's a treadmill, and you don't win a treadmill. You just eventually get off or fall off or whatever. Psychologists, bless them, have actually named this. It's called the hedonic treadmill. So there's hedonic adaptation. The finding replicated over and over is that whatever you get the raise, the car, the house, the promotion, your happiness spikes for a bit, and then within months, it settles right back into baseline. And your brain, that treacherous little organ, is it an organ? Quietly redefines enough as slightly more than what I currently have. Forever. Lottery winners, this is the famous study, end up roughly as happy as they were before the win, which means the entire premise of the grind, suffer now, arrive later, is arguing with your own neurochemistry, right? There's no later. Your brain doesn't do arrived, it only does next. The house always wins, even when the house is literally a house. Anyway, through all of this, the moving goalposts and the shrinking returns and the years evaporating and the government sensing you might be getting ahead, so they're going to take more, everyone around you just kind of nods along because the most powerful force in the universe isn't gravity, kids. It's the phrase that's just how it is. So I want to put this phrase on the table for a second and then rip it to shreds because I think it deserves a proper autopsy. That's just life. Notice what it does? It ends the conversation. It's not an answer. It's a fire blanket, right? You raise this genuine question. Why do we live like this? And someone throws, that's just life, over it and smothers it before it can spread. Conversation over, nothing to see here, back to the grind. But the thing about just life, almost nothing we call just life is actually life, right? It's decisions. It's old ones. It's decisions made by people who are, and I cannot stress this enough, dead. Long dead, extremely, extremely dead. Okay? Very, very, very gone. The 5-day week, a decision. The 8-hour day, a decision. And by the way, a decision that was a radical improvement at the time, fought for by people who were being worked 14 hours a day, which means it was designed as a ceiling over a century ago, and we've been treating it as a floor ever since. Factory hours from the factory era, running your Zoom-based life like it's 1926 and you're operating a loom. You're not operating a loom, okay? Some of you are barely operating. Retirement at 65? Yeah. A number picked when most people politely died at around 70. That was the math. Work till 65, enjoy a brisk 5 years of gardening, and then exit stage left. Yeah. Now they've nudged it later and later. And in some cases, you can't friggin' help it because you got bills to pay. And the unspoken plan kind of appears to be work until you're basically a haunted coat and then have a well-earned rest that your knees can no longer participate in. Fun. None of this came down a mountain on stone tablets. Guys, nobody found the 9 to 5 in a burning bush. It's all just, stuff we kept doing. Habits with an HR department or something, for trying to stay on brand here. And look, I get why people say that's just life. I get it. It's comforting, genuinely, because the alternative, maybe admitting that the whole damn arrangement is optional and it's a choice that we keep collectively remaking every single day, that's terrifying. If it's just life, you're off the hook. Nothing to be done. Have a cookie. But if it's a choice, then every day we don't question it. We're choosing it for ourselves. And worse, for our kids. There's a name for this too, by the way. A couple, actually, because, psychologists love naming our dysfunctions and then not fixing them. The first is status quo bias. Humans reliably prefer the current arrangement over any alternative, even a better one, purely because it's the current arrangement. And we hate change. Losses kind of loom larger than gains. And like I said, change feels like risk. And so the devil gets reelected every single day unopposed. The second one's my favorite, pluralistic ignorance. And that's when everyone in a group kind of privately disagrees with something, but assumes everyone else is, cool with it. So nobody says anything. So the thing continues forever. Side note, I'm the person who says the thing always. And, then I get labeled conspiracy theorist or anti this, that, or the other, or some sort of ism, whatever. Nobody in the meeting thinks the meeting is useful. Everyone stays in the meeting, though. The meeting is scheduled again for the next week. Entire civilizations run on this, right? Like, there's a decent chance the whole "that's just life" arrangement is millions of people looking around a metaphorical room thinking, surely I'm not the only one who thinks this is insane, and staying quiet because everyone else looks so calm. Spoiler, they're not calm. They're doing the same math that you are. Somebody just has to say it first, and it's me. Like I said, it's always me. Here's a fun thought experiment. Imagine explaining our normal to someone with no context, like an alien. or your great-great-grandmother. I don't know, a very intelligent dog, whatever. So we sell most of our waking hours to organizations we don't particularly like. Why? To buy things. What things? Mostly a box to sleep in near the place that takes our hours. So the hours pay for the box, and the box exists so you can keep giving up the hours? Yes. And when do you live? Weekends, some evenings. There's a thing called paid time off. You have to request it. And then the alien leaves. The alien goes home. The alien tells the rest of the galaxy to give Earth a miss, because they've done something weird with time down there. Or, have we just repeated it for so many generations that nobody remembers asking why? That's the question, isn't it? Tradition is just peer pressure from dead people. I don't know. Some traditions are lovely, Thanksgiving dinners, birthday cakes, pretending to like your aunt's Jell-O salad. I don't know. Keep those, but spend your healthiest decades in fluorescent lighting so that eventually maybe you can rest. I think I'd like to see the receipts on that one. I think I might want to put on my Karen hair and speak to the manager of that tradition. You know what? For a while, you can laugh about all this. The treadmill, the alarms, the meetings. It's absurd, but it's survivable absurd, right? Gallows humor gets you through. And then life plays its next card, and this one isn't funny. I don't know. So let's say you do it. You play the game well. You survive the ladder. Somewhere in your late 30s, your 40s, you finally get your head above water, barely. Because like I said, anytime the government senses you might be getting ahead, they take more. Maybe you've got a home. Maybe there's actually savings in the savings account, not savings in air quotes, actual money that stays there for more than a month. Maybe for the first time in your adult life, you open a bill without doing that little wince, right? You made it. This is the part where you exhale. But then you look over at your parents and something's different. Not old in the way you've always joked about, not dad can't work the remote old, or not mom prints out emails old, but actually old, sick old, the kind of old that comes with letters from the hospital and words you have to Google in the parking lot. The kind of old I talk about a lot because, well, one of them died, but the other one is in long-term care with dementia. You don't get warned, that there's no moment where it officially begins. It's just this slow dissolve of sorts. One day you're getting a lift off your dad, and some unmarked day later, you're driving him to appointments. Plural, recurring, in your calendar now, color-coded between work meetings. The people who carried you start needing you to carry them, right? And you do it. Of course you do it. There's no decision, really. Love already decided, but let's be honest about what it is, because society certainly isn't honest about it. It's becoming a part-time carer, or a full-time one, on top of literally everything else. It's stupid hospital appointments becoming a normal calendar entry, sat there between Q3 planning and school pickup. It is the school pickup squeezed in between because you've got your own kids too. That's the sandwich. You're the filling press between the generation you're raising and the generation that raised you. And both of them need you at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday, right? Dinner ready by 5:30 because routines matter now. Routines are load bearing. Medication sorted into those little plastic days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's time itself got prescribed, right? Bed by 8, there's not yours. Yours comes later after the cleaning up and the emails you didn't get to and the 15 minutes of staring at a wall that's now your entire personality. And you watch them slow down, and that becomes normal, and you watch them disappear little bit by little bit. A name they can't find, a story on its third loop, or a room they walked into and forgot why, and somehow, monstrously, that becomes normal too. That's the cruelest trick grief plays, right? It starts arriving early in installments while the person is still sat right there in their chair asking if you want a cup of coffee. Sorry, I was just running my mouth there. I've talked about it before. Psychologists call it anticipatory grief. You're mourning someone before they're gone, and it's real grief, the full fat version, right? With all the exhaustion and fog and guilt that comes with it, except you get none of the rituals. You don't get the casseroles, you don't get the time off because officially nothing's happened yet. And you're grieving in secret on a schedule between meetings. If you felt it and felt mad for feeling it, you're not mad. It has a name. It's in the literature, and you're allowed. And I have to keep reminding myself that too. And then Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. You're expected to be on call, camera on, ideally. Good weekend? Oh, yeah, Steve, fantastic. Yes, fun. Spent Saturday in the ER and Sunday explaining to my mom who I am. Anyway, Q3 numbers? You're expected to just kind of turn up like none of it's happening, right? To care deeply about a spreadsheet while your actual world tilts on its axis. And the system's grand concession for this, its big hearted gesture, is what exactly? Bereavement leave? 3 days, maybe 5 if your company offers it at all, because there's no federal law that says they have to, right? And it's unpaid. 5 days for the ending of the person who gave you everything. We give longer for jury duty. You get more time off for a stranger's court case than for your mother. Where is the break that we all deserve? Not a vacation, a break. A real one. One that has shape and structure. I don't know. A society that says this part of life is coming for almost all of us, so let's actually build for it instead of pretending this private inconvenience to be managed around the stand-up meeting, right? Nobody in charge seems to have noticed that this isn't rare. This is the deal for an entire generation. Millions of people right now doing the school run and the hospital run in the same afternoon and holding down the job that holds down the mortgage, disappearing into hallways and parking lots and pharmacy lines, and doing it all quietly because the culture says, you don't make a fuss. You, listening to this, doing exactly that. You are not failing. You are not struggling to juggle. You are doing 3 full-time jobs and being paid for 1, if that. And the fact that you are tired is basically arithmetic. Okay? And while all of this is happening, while you're in the hospital parking lot on hold with the insurance company eating a gas station sandwich at 4 p.m. because it's the first gap in the day somewhere across town, a 5-year-old is being handed a tiny uniform and someone who loves them, someone who means well, someone who's exhausted from doing everything I've just described, crouches down and says the words, work hard at school and you can be anything you want. And then the machine starts again. Except, and here's the really dark part, the next lot are getting a worse version because we got brainwashed with a broadcast signal. They're getting it in 4K direct to the eyeballs, 11 hours a day. We compared ourselves to the kids in our class. They compare themselves to every child on earth, plus the filters, plus the highlight reels. We were sold, get a good job, and they're being sold, build your personal brand. At 9. Okay? There are children with content strategies. There are children experiencing engagement anxiety before they've experienced a loose tooth. A little bit more psychology here for you. It's a grim one. So in 1954, a guy named Leon Festinger came up with the idea, the social comparison theory. Okay? This is the idea that humans figure out that their own worth is made by measuring themselves against people around them, right? It's hardwired. Cannot turn it off. So for most of human history, the people around them meant your village, maybe 150 people, most of whom also had bad teeth in one outfit, right? Comparison was survivable. And then we handed every child a device that expands the people around them to 8 billion, algorithmically filtered, so they mostly see the richest, prettiest, most surgically optimized sliver of the species performing their best 5 seconds on a loop. We took a piece of Stone Age software and plugged it into an infinite comparison machine. Terrible. And then we act surprised by the anxiety statistics. Surprised. At least our hamster wheel was analog, right? Theirs has a button. And in 25 years, if nothing changes, that kid will be sitting in a car, an electric one, presumably, self-driving, probably, hopefully not mid-software update, outside some hospital, calendar full, parents fading, boss emailing, wondering the exact same thing you're wondering now. How did this happen? When did I agree to this? You didn't. That's the answer. You never agreed. You were just born into the line and the line was moving. So everyone in the line seemed sure. So you just shuffled along with them. Unless, and here's the thought that should probably keep the machine up at night, unless somebody in line turns around and says something, right? I don't want to leave you in the parking lot, okay? Deep breath. That's not the point of this episode. Righteous fury is a great starter. It's a terrible main course, okay? So here's the turn. I don't actually think the answer is burning it all down and moving to a yurt. I mean, no offense to yurt people. Living the dream, questionable Wi-Fi, but living the dream. It's cool. As they get older, I'm more into the take me off the grid. I enjoy this space with these open fields and all these wild animals and pet animals and whatever else. Whatever. But the answer, I think, is like older and simpler and much more annoying because it doesn't come with an app, right? We need to get back to our roots. And by roots, I don't mean some like fantasy past, right? The past was largely garbage. I don't want to romanticize dysentery, okay? I mean, the two things humans actually ran on for about 200,000 years before someone invented the performance review: love and community. Because the thing that like really got me going thinking about all of this, every single thing we've talked about today, every broken bit is what happens when you take those two things out and replace them with transactions, right? School without love becomes sorting, and work without community becomes extraction, and old age without community becomes a logistics problem, a line, a waiting list, a pamphlet. Caring for your parents alone in the dark with 5 days compassionate leave is what happens when a village's job gets dumped on one person and then like rebranded as personal responsibility, right? It was never supposed to be one person. The school pickup, the hospital run, the dinner by 5:30. For most of human history, that load landed on a web of people, like grandparents and neighbors and cousins, the woman down the street who'd known you since you were born. Was it perfect? No. Everybody knew your business. And someone was always judging your lawn, okay? But nobody carried it alone. Nobody was expected to raise kids and nurse parents and hit targets solo and then feel like a failure for finding it hard, right? We didn't evolve past community. We just kind of priced it out and replaced it with subscriptions, okay? Lonely? There's an app. Overwhelmed? There's an app or a pill. Need help? There's a helpline. Your call is important to us. You are number 47 in line. Enjoy this 17-minute flute solo. If you want the science on this, because, I always throw psychology at you, all episode, why stop now? Here's a big one. Harvard has been running a study on happiness since 1938. 80 plus years, generations of researchers tracking the same families their whole ass lives. It's the longest study of adult life ever done. And the headline finding, after all that time and money, isn't wealth, isn't fame, it's not career success, it's relationships. The quality of your close relationships is the single strongest predictor of both happiness and physical health. Good relationships literally protect your body. People with strong connections live longer and stay sharper. Loneliness, meanwhile, does damage on par with the classic health villains, right? 80 years of Harvard's finest, and the conclusion is basically your grandma was right. Love people and have your friends over. There's even a number for how much community we're built for. Dunbar's number. Robin Dunbar, an evolutionary psychologist, worked out from primate brain sizes that humans can maintain roughly 150 stable relationships. This is incomprehensible to me. I like my 4 quarters, right? 150. That's the size of the village we're wired for. 150, not 4,000 followers and no one to drive you to the hospital. Your call is important to us. The 4 least sincere words, since no worries if not. So what do we actually do? Because dismantle late-stage capitalism by Thursday is not really on my to-do list. My to-do list already has cleaned the coffee maker on it from March. Honestly, small, unglamorous human things. The stuff that doesn't trend. Know your neighbors. Actually know them. Names, faces, which one has a ladder. Be the person who notices. Check on the friend who's gone quiet, because the quiet ones are usually in the hospital parking lot. Okay. If you know someone who's caring for a parent, don't say, "Let me know if you need anything." They won't, because that's just another task. Okay. I say this all the time. When people suffer the death of someone, I don't say, "Let me know what you need. Let me know if you need anything." They're not thinking about that shit. They're not going to let you know shit. You just turn up, you bring food, you take their kids for 2 hours, you sit with their mom so they can get a haircut and cry in the car in peace. Whatever. That's community. It's not a hashtag. Don't put it on social media. Don't tell the whole world your little good deeds that you've done. And don't try to make a video of it and put it out there for clicks, right? It's stupid. It's a casserole and it's a spare hour and it's just silence about it. That's what it is. And ask the why questions out loud, right? Be me at work, at home, and the school pickup line, not to be difficult, although be a little difficult. It's good for you. But because why do we do it this way is the most powerful sentence in the language, and the system relies on nobody saying it. So start saying it. Every improvement humanity has ever made started with someone being told that's just how it is and going, is it though? Okay. And with the kids, the next one's in line, maybe we change the script slightly. Still work hard, fine, but maybe also figure out who you are. There's no rush. Maybe success gets like a broader definition than a job title and a zip code, right? Maybe we tell them the truth, that the ladder is optional and that the goalposts will move and that the richest people that they will ever meet are the ones with time and health and probably a full table on a Sunday, right? Final thought, and then I'll let you go. You've probably got a form to fill in for permission to exist. Nobody at the end does the math and wishes the numbers were bigger. Nobody's last words are, I should have replied to more emails. You know this. We've all heard it. Everyone knows this. Every nurse, every hospice worker, every person who's held a fading hand will tell you the same thing. At the end, it's all love. Who you loved, who loved you, who showed up. That's the actual currency. Okay. Everything else is just the line. So no, I don't accept that that's just life. Life is the part they're squeezing into the margins, the school pickup, the dinner at 5:30, the coffee with your mom while she still knows it's you. That's not the interruption to the plan. That was the whole point all along. Thank you so much for listening to this long-ass episode. If you would like to support production costs, join the Facebook group or contact me. All the information is in the show notes. I want you to look after each other out there and call your mom, annoy your HR department, know which neighbor has a ladder. It's all a choice. So let's start making better ones. Okay. See you next time.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of Unbound Off Script. Someone eventually had to pull the plug because, as you know, Beth will happily keep talking until the sun goes down. Thanks for listening, and we will see you whenever she finally runs out of things to say. I'm Rob, she's a blabbermouth, and we're out.